Picture the room you've actually been in. 8 people around the table, a decision on the agenda that won't wait. And 2 of them, the one who wants to move and the one who wants proof, start grinding against each other. Their voices change first, a little tighter, a little faster. And right then, in the space of about 4 seconds, you have to decide what you're going to do with what just happened in front of you. You don't get to call a timeout. You can't say to the team, hold that thought while I pull up my notes on the 21 bilateral patterns and figure out which one this is. The room keeps moving whether you're ready or not. So everything we've built across this whole module, the formations, the 4 kinds of structural mismatch, the discipline of metabolizing instead of resolving, all of that was preparation for this one live moment. And here's what I want you to understand going in. The real skill has almost nothing to do with having the catalog memorized. The coaches who freeze are the ones reaching for a pattern name. The coaches who stay useful are running the anatomy fast and quiet under the surface while their face stays calm and present in the room. In this video, I'm going to take you inside one of those 4-second windows. I'll narrate the coach's internal process step by step on a real exchange, and then I'll hand you the single self-check you carry out of this whole module. It's one question you ask about your own move. Master that one question, and you can walk into any team in friction and trust yourself. Up to now, you've had time on your side. Every exercise in this module let you slow down, look at a transcript, sort out which formation was which, and draft a question with all the leisure in the world. That's the right way to build the muscle. Those leisurely conditions just disappear the moment the work goes live. The conditions you'll actually work in are these. A leadership team is in front of you. 2 of them are grinding, and you have about 4 seconds before the moment passes or hardens. You can't pause the room. You can't consult a chart. There's no quiet corner to think it through. The collision is live. The temperature is rising, and everyone, including the 2 who are clashing, is watching to see whether you do anything at all. So the test changes shape. It stops being, can you analyze a collision, and becomes, can you read one while it's happening to you in real time with the clock running? That's a different competency. Slow analysis lives in your head. Live reading lives in your nervous system. And this is the place where I see good practitioners come undone, not because they don't know the material, but because under pressure, they reach for the wrong thing. They try to recall the exact name. Was that a currency collision or a clock collision? Is this pattern 14? And while they're hunting through the filing cabinet, the 4 seconds are gone and the room has moved on without them. Speed doesn't come from the catalog. Speed comes from the method, and the method is what we walk next. Here's the whole live read as one sequence, and I want you to hold it as a sequence because the order matters, and the speed comes from running it in order rather than scrambling. First, you observe the friction. You don't interpret yet. You just register that 2 people are pushing against each other, and you let yourself feel where the heat is. Second, you identify the 2 formations and what each one is protecting, not the personalities, the formations underneath. What is each person defending that actually matters to the team? Third, you name the structural mismatch. There are 4 kinds, and by now they should come to you as a quick checklist. Is this a currency mismatch, a clock mismatch, a lens mismatch, or a position mismatch. You're sorting which of the four is driving the grind. Fourth, you shape a question that surfaces that structure without choosing a winner. The question makes the underlying mismatch visible so the team can work it, and it does that without voting for either side. Now, the thing I most want you to take from this slide is the pace and the texture of it. The whole sequence runs fast and quiet under the surface while you stay present. Your eyes are on the people. Your face is open. Nobody in that room can see you running 4 steps because you're not performing the steps. You're metabolizing the moment through them. With reps, the sequence stops feeling like 4 steps and starts feeling like 1 read. Let me put you inside an actual exchange so the sequence has flesh on it. This is a composite, but I've watched some version of it play out at a dozen tables. The CMO leans in and says, "We have a window, we have to move now." There's real urgency in it, a campaign window that closes, a competitor about to move, a moment that won't come back. You can hear that this person genuinely believes the team is about to miss something. The CFO answers, and the answer is flat and firm. "I can't sign off on a number I can't defend." No heat yet, but no give either. This person is picturing the board meeting where they have to stand behind that number, and they will not be caught exposed. And then the thing happens that tells you this is live and not theoretical. The voices tighten, just slightly. The CMOs gets a little faster, a little more clipped. The CFOs gets a little cooler, a little more clipped in the other direction. That tightening is your signal. It's the friction crossing from disagreement into collision, and it's the moment your 4-second clock starts. This is exactly where most of the work happens, not in the words, which sound reasonable from both, but in the change of temperature underneath them. 2 competent executives, both right about something, both protecting something real, and the room starting to choose sides without anyone meaning to. Watch what the coach does with it next, because the words gave you almost nothing. The structure gave you everything. Now I'll slow down the 4 seconds and show you what's running inside the coach while the face stays still, because this is the part nobody gets to see when they watch a skilled team coach work. The first thing that lands is the trust currencies. The CMO trades in what moves: momentum, action, the cost of waiting. The CFO trades in being right, defensibility, precision, not being caught wrong in public. 2 different currencies, and each person is treating their own as the obvious one. Then the clocks. The CMO is on a campaign window, which is short and external and closes on its own. The CFO is on a fiscal cycle, which is long and structured and answers to the board. They're not even measuring time on the same instrument. Then what each one protects, and this is the move that keeps you out of judgment. The CMO is protecting momentum, and the room and idea needs to breathe. The CFO is protecting precision and the standing that comes with never being caught indefensible. Both of those are things the team genuinely needs. And out of that read, the question forms. You're each protecting something the team needs. What would a decision look like that held both the window and the proof? Notice what that question does. It honors both currencies by name. It makes the structural tension the shared problem, and it hands the work back to the team without telling them where to land. 4 seconds, no winner named. The structure now sitting on the table for everyone to see. Here's where I have to show you the question that will tempt you. because it's the one that feels safest and does the most damage. In that same moment, with the CMO and the CFO grinding, the question that rises most naturally for a lot of coaches is this one. Don't you think we should at least get some data before committing? It sounds careful. It sounds neutral. It sounds like the reasonable adult in the room asking everyone to slow down and be rigorous. And that's exactly the trap, because it feels like good coaching while it quietly takes a side. Listen to it again with the formations in your ear. Data before committing. That's the CFO's currency, word for word. Defensibility, proof, not moving until the number holds. You've taken one person's protected value and dressed it up as a neutral process question, and the CMO will hear it instantly, not the surface politeness, the vote underneath it. From that second on, the CMO knows the coach is on the other side of the table, and the room reorganizes around that. This is the most common way a surfacing question collapses into a side-taking one. A question that sounds neutral, but is carrying one formation's currency inside it. The danger is precisely that it doesn't feel like siding. It feels like wisdom. So you can't trust the feeling of neutrality. You have to read the question back for whose currency it's built from every time. Let me tell you why this is hard. Because it stays easy in the exercises. In the exercises, you'll surface cleanly all day. It gets hard in the live room, and it gets hard for a specific reason. When two people are grinding and the temperature is climbing, the urge to resolve spikes. It spikes in everyone, and it spikes in you. Something in you wants to make the discomfort stop. So 3 pulls show up, and they show up fast. The first is to soothe, to smooth the friction over, to find the reassuring thing to say that lowers the temperature so everyone can relax. The second is to side. And you'll notice you side with the leader who's more sympathetic to you, the one whose style you like, the one who reminds you of yourself. The third is to hand over the answer, to step out of the coach's seat and just tell them what you do because you can see it and they're struggling and it would be so easy. Every one of those relieves the room, and every one of those relieves you. That's the seam I want you to watch for in yourself. The exact point where a coach under pressure slides out of coaching and into refereeing without ever deciding to. The discipline that's held all module long is the thing most likely to slip right here. So the live skill comes down to 3 movements you hold under heat. Read accurately, surface cleanly, and resist the pull to resolve. So how do you actually train that discipline, given that you can't catch yourself in real time when you're still learning? You train it with one question you run on your own move right after you make it. Here it is. Did my question surface the structure for the team to work, or did it nudge them toward a side? That's the whole self-check. 2 outcomes only. It either put the structure on the table for the team to wrestle with, or it tipped them, however gently, toward one answer. And the rule that goes with it is simple and a little uncomfortable. If it nudged, you've left the seat. Not maybe. You left the coach's seat and stepped into the referee's. There's no in-between where a nudge is still coaching. The moment your question voted, even quietly, even with the best intentions, you stop doing the work the team hired you for. What makes this powerful is that you can run it on yourself forever. You don't need the team to tell you. You don't need a supervisor watching. After you ask a question to a team in friction, You replay it in your own head and ask surface or side. And over time, running that check after the fact starts to sharpen the questions you ask before the fact. The self-check migrates upstream until you're catching the side-taking version before it leaves your mouth. This one question is the thing you carry out of this entire module. Everything else can fade. Keep this. Before you go practice, I want to set your expectations honestly about what you can and can't do with what you've learned here. Because reading a collision is powerful, and it's also only half of the diagnostic. What you've trained in this module is reading two formations against each other. You can stand in a room, watch two leaders grind, and see the structure of their collision. The currencies, the clocks, the lenses, the positions. That's real. And it's most of what coaches never learn to see at all. So don't underestimate what you're walking out with. But there's a second half. And without it, your reads will sometimes surprise you. The bilateral collision tells you what's happening between two people. It doesn't tell you what the whole room is built to hear. Every team has a center of gravity, a dominant formation that sets the default for everyone in it, that quietly decides which currencies get treated as normal and which get treated as weird, which clock the room runs on without discussing it. The same collision lands completely differently depending on what the room's center of gravity already favors. That's where Module 5 goes. We move from reading two formations against each other to reading what the entire team is built to hear, the team's center of gravity. Once you have both, your read gets stereoscopic. You'll see the collision in front of you, and you'll also see the whole field that collision is happening inside, and which way that field is already tilted. Here's your work before you move on. And this is the rep that turns the live read from something you understand into something you can do. So set aside real time for it. Open the Reading a Live Collision exercise. It's an annotated transcript, a leadership team exchange with two leaders grinding, exactly like the CMO and CFO you just watched. Your first job is to diagnose it. Run the sequence, observe the friction, identify the two formations and what each one is protecting, and name which of the four structural mismatches is driving the grind: currency, clock, lens, or position. Then draft your surfacing question. Write the actual words you'd say in the room, not a description of a question, the question itself as you'd speak it. Now run the self-check on your own draft. Read it back and ask the one question: did this surface the structure for the team to work, or did it nudge them toward a side? Be ruthless with yourself here, because the side-taking version always feels reasonable from the inside. Check whose currency your question is built from. If it's carrying one formation's currency, it voted. And then do the part that actually builds the skill. Rewrite it until it surfaces. The first draft that votes, the second draft that's closer, the third draft that finally puts the structure on the table and names no winner. That sequence of rewrites is the skill itself. Then carry the self-check into your next real session and run it on every question you ask a team in friction.